Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video I'm going to take a look at a power supply from Gameax. Now, before you get all excited and start throwing pitchforks and saying things, I know it's a cheap power supply. This isn't for everybody. Let's get that out there straight away. This is very much a budget power supply for very budget builds. If you're building a moderately expensive or even a mid-range PC, this is probably not the power supply for you. There are plenty of other ones on the market. But this at the moment here in the UK for a 700 watt power supply is around about £45, which is not a bad price considering this is 80 plus bronze rated. It's got 4 PCI Express connections. It's also got dual EPS connections, pretty silent fan, moderate build quality, comes with a 2-year warranty. 45 quid, I don't think you can go too far wrong, but like I've already said, do temper your expectations. This is not for middle or high-end builds. This is not for you. But if you are flipping PCs and you just want something cheap and cheerful to stick in the computer, which isn't going to be outrageously loud, isn't going to cost you a fortune, got a couple of years warranty on it, and I think I would rather go with one of these new than possibly a refurbished or second-hand unit, especially if you're flipping a PC. It just gives you that extra bit of kind of peace of mind. Anyway, with all that said, let's take a look at the packaging, see what it's all about, look at some of the protections, the features, etc. We'll go through the cable lengths as well, because I know for some of you that are flipping PCs, that is pretty important, and also the amount of physical connectors on the power supply. And then at the end of the video, you can make up your own minds whether or not this is going to be suitable for your specific needs. So starting off with the packaging, typical Gamemax packaging. Now this actually is an interesting power supply in terms of its availability. Now this power supply seems to be more orientated, or at least aimed at the EU markets, so England, Spain, France, etc, etc. Judging by the multilingual box, then yeah, that is who it's aimed at. Also as well, it isn't a multi-voltage unit, so this only supports between 200 and 230 volts. So there are going to be some countries which you just simply cannot use this in. This is something which we're not really used to seeing these days. Most power supplies tend to be multi-voltage, so you can use them from like 100 volts right the way up to 240 volts, and they've got internal switching. This hasn't, hence why this is cheaper. They've obviously cut back to try and kind of aim it at a specific region, and also due to that, it's also the reason why they've just narrowly scraped getting the 80 plus bronze. This gets to about 88% efficiency at around about 50% load. At its lowest, it's around about 80%, I think at 20% load. So in terms of its actual kind of performance, yes, they have made this for a specific region for a specific reason. And that is because if they marketed it outside of this region on a different voltage, they'd have to change things internally. And also potentially it wouldn't meet that 80 plus bronze. So just a word of warning there. If you're looking for these in other countries such as the US, Australia, etc., then yeah, this isn't going to be available for you. They will more than likely offer you some of the either the GX or the GP range, which yeah, have got somewhat differing reviews depending on where you're looking. Anyway, back to the packaging. So as I said, this is part of the Gameax Rampage range, their real power gaming Rampage 700, and it has got that 80 plus bronze certification for EU countries. On the side, we've got the French, German, Italian, and Spanish explanations or features, and on the back it goes through some of the key elements. So it's got an elegant black PSU casing, which whether or not that's a selling point, I don't know. It is compliant with ATX version 2.4, up to 88% efficiency, as we've said, an official 80 plus bronze certification, powerful 12 volt rail for high-end components, single 12 volt rail. Also, long cables, I would disagree with that. The cables aren't the longest I've seen, but we'll go on to that a little bit later. It does have dual PCI Express 6+2 pin connectors for sort of more mid-range or older graphics cards. Also, it's got up to 6 SATA connectors. Protections included, not really great on here, but there are some. So we've got over voltage protection, over power protection, and under voltage protection. No short circuit protection, at least not that they've stated. And it says it's eco-friendly, so yeah, whatever. It does say as well, Japanese capacitor and ultra-silent 140mm cooling fan. So talking of the capacitors, I've had a little peek inside to see what is going on, and the capacitors do appear to be what they say they are. So it is a TK branded capacitor, which is rated to 105C, and TK capacitors are generally from Japan, so yeah, it is a Japanese 105C capacitor for the main bolt cap. Unfortunately, there have been some manufacturers or distributors which have re-sleeved TK capacitors and able to get them a little bit cheaper and basically got them from China, which yeah, is not great. So obviously I can see on the markings it does say TK, but take that with a significant pinch of salt. So let's take a look at the power supply itself and what we actually get in the box. Now, you don't get a great deal. Now, it does say in a lot of places that it comes with a power cable. This particular one didn't come with a UK power plug, which is a little bit disappointing. This was actually from Amazon, so you would expect them to come with it. Unfortunately, it didn't, and it was sealed when it came through. So yeah, I'm not too sure what went on there. Obviously, a lot of us have got the connectors available, so that's not a problem for me. But if you're buying this expecting to have the cable, just err on the side of caution and maybe order one anyway that you can potentially return. Also, it comes with a user manual, not very exciting, and also it comes with 4 screws to attach it to your PC, and also a small amount of cable ties to aid with cable management, of which you potentially might need because this is a captive power supply. So all the cables are directly connected, so no modular or semi-modular. All the cables are permanently connected. So do bear that in mind. If you are working in a slightly more cramped or smaller case, then you have got a lot of wires to try and cable manage. So do bear that in mind. They do actually do a version of this, which is semi-modular and also fully modular, although I have found the fully modular ones to be a little bit on the noisy side. Hence why I returned one and got this instead, because it's got a pretty decent 140mm fan in there, which is deemed as low noise. And actually, we've done some testing on that today. It's very hard to do in this individual studio section. So yeah, it is what it is, but let's have a little listen to the fan and you can hear what it sounds like, or doesn't sound like, because it's really quiet. So there you go, there is the sound of the fan. Yeah, it's very unintrusive, and over all of your other PC components, your system fans, your CPU fan, etc., you're not going to hear this at all. So it does run nice and cool and nice and quiet, which is always a nice thing. The 140mm fan does move quite a lot of air, and you can actually feel a decent breeze coming out the back. So in terms of cooling, yeah, it's absolutely fine. When it comes to the actual layout itself, so it's pretty nice. I do like these grills. It does allow a lot of airflow to go through and also reduces turbulence to keep noise down, which is excellent. On the side, you've got some rather offensive logo on the side, a little bit on the overkill side, but I guess it is what it is. On the other side, you've just got a label on there telling you about the power supply and also what is on the 12-volt rail. As you can see, this actually says it is 56 amps on the 12-volt rail, which doesn't quite add up to be 700 watts. So they have taken a little bit of liberty with the actual wattage rating on here. That is somewhere in the region of about 670, 675 watts on the 12-volt rail. So it's not a million miles off, but it would have been nice for it to be a little bit more accurate, or possibly overcompensating and then put a lower badge on it. I guess technically you could call this a 650 watt power supply, but yeah, just wanted to make you aware that the 12-volt rail is a little bit less than what is specified. On the back, you've got just a single power switch and also your mains input. You've got some nice ventilation on the back. No options on here for silent fan or 0 dB mode, although realistically with this particular fan it doesn't actually need it. So that's it pretty much for the power supply. Let's take a look at the connectivity. So first of all, we've got our 24-pin main power connector. This cable is a little bit shorter than some, so this is coming in at 550mm, but it has got a nice block connector, and also you can detach the end part if you wanted to use it as a 20-pin rather than a 24-pin. Next up, from the nest of wires, we have the EPS connectors or CPU connectors. These are nice and clearly marked, so you can't really go too far wrong. These are 8-pin, which are 4+4s, and they kind of slot together, so nice and easy to manage. If you've got a motherboard which needs a 4 plus an 8 or whatever, that's fine. And also it's nice to see that they're on 2 separate cables and not being piggybacked, so you can get a decent amount of power into your motherboard for potential overclocking purposes, although, as we've said, this is probably not the power supply for that, but it's there anyway. It's nice to see. And those are a little bit longer at 600mm. Next, we've got our PCI Express. Now this is actually, well, potentially dangerous, but not entirely. So I would have preferred for these to actually been just 2 cables and 2 plugs. But instead they've gone with the piggyback method, so potentially allowing some people to plug in 3 PCI Express connections to their graphics card on this 700W power supply, which is not recommended. If you're using a graphics card which requires 2 8-pin connectors, I would certainly recommend using the 2 individual cables and ignoring the piggyback leads altogether. But certainly they are there. These are a little bit shorter as well. These are only 450mm to the first plug and then another 150 to the secondary plugs. Next up, we've got our SATA connections. So the first lead, which is the longest one of the lot, so this one is 550 to the first plug, then 150 between each additional plug, and you've got 4 on there in total. And then last of all, if you're using some components which require a Molex connector, or I think we'll call it a Molex connector, it's not a Molex, but yes, we know it as a Molex accessory connector, so or older PATA style connector. So you get 2 of those, 1 on each cable, and also you get another SATA cable or SATA connection on each cable. These ones again a little bit shorter, around about 400mm to the first plug and then another 150 between the associated end plug. So I think it's time we wrap this up. So you know about the power supply, you know what it can and can't do. Personally, I would say, depending on what you're buying this for, if you're buying it for a flip PC, it's just, or something really cheap and cheerful, which is just not going to have any real loads on it, this is absolutely fine. And for, I would say, modest systems, older AM4 systems with something like a 1080, 1080 Ti, maybe a 2060, 2070, that sort of thing, it's going to be fine. It's going to be absolutely fine. Obviously, do check out the wattage calculators that are available online to see what your system actually needs, and then double it. And then if this reaches that, then I think you're pretty much in the safe spot. So realistically, if your system's looking at drawing about 400 watts, 450 watts, then yeah, this is going to be fine. It's going to give you a decent amount of headroom should it get any sort of surges or spikes. Personally, I think due to the 2-year warranty and also the limitations of the power factor, it does actually have active power factor correction built into it. So that is all a nice thing to have on a cheaper unit. But I think for most people, if you are looking around this sort of price point, I would strongly suggest actually doing a little bit of a 180 and maybe taking a look at something from Corsair. Now Corsair do this model here. This is the CX650. These at the moment you can pick up on Amazon for actually very similar prices. So this one was about £45. This at the moment is about £48. Potentially a little bit higher depending when and where you're looking. Don't worry, obviously we'll put affiliate links in the video description. I think this is going to be the better buy. This comes with a 5-year warranty. It's also bronze rated. It's also fully captive cables. You do get slightly less cables. So in terms of your PCI Express, you only get 2 plugs, but there's only 1 cable. So you will have to piggyback it, which for a lot of people is a little bit of a deal breaker. But again, if you're using something like, I don't know, a Intel B580 graphics card, or some of the newer cards which only need an 8-pin connector, 3060, 4060, that sort of thing, then this is going to be absolutely fine. Obviously, both of them are going to be absolutely fine, but in terms of the current pricing and the difference between the two, if you're looking for one of these, I would probably buy one of these, hence why I've bought both. This is going to be roughly about the same term of noise levels. Corsair power supplies are generally quite quiet, and obviously 5-year warranty. It's a trusted brand name. We know where it comes from. These are made by Channelwell Technologies or Great Wall, depending on which year you bought it in. So the OEM is a known quantity and it's a decent branded power supply with a decent backup and warranty support. Whereas the Gameax ones, unfortunately, they're a little bit of a kind of hit and miss. The actual motherboard in this, or the kind of the main board itself, is made by a company called YL Connections or YL Computers, which is based in China somewhere. Obviously, yeah, it is what it is. It's cheap for a reason. So my advice would be, if you've got your heart set on one of these, then just get it. But obviously do be mindful. But also do keep in mind that Corsair power supplies are coming down in price, and especially the CX range, which have got a tried and tested history. So there you go. There are my thoughts on the Gameax Rampage 700W power supply. Get one if you want one. Otherwise, strongly advise having a look around, see what else is available at a similar price point. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content of this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and then also the chime notification. That way you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.